Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a horror film from USA and Chile. This is actually a collaboration. It was supposed to be released in the year 2013, but for problems it was delayed until now, 2015. Spoken in English and a tiny bit of foreign language, but majority of it is in English. Directed by Eli Roth, and this film is called The Green Inferno. So The Green Inferno, it is about these activists who are protesting the destruction of ancient tribes in the Amazon jungle. So these corporations are bulldozing their homes in order to get to gas that is located underneath the surface. So these protesters, they embark on a trip to Peru from the United States. They get to Peru, they go into the jungle and they protest this. It is a success, but on the way back from the jungle, the plane crashes and now they're stranded in the Amazon, and they realise that they are on the menu for a tribe of cannibalistic natives. So whether or not they can get out of the jungle and to safety is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Green Inferno. As I said, this was delayed for a long time. I don't know exactly what happened or what the problem was, but when I first heard about this movie, I had a high anticipation for it, but because it was just so long, I lost complete interest in it and I've forgotten about it. So when I realised that it was being released this year, my anticipation levels were up again. So I was really hoping that this would be worth the wait. So the movie is a homage to the films like Cannibal Holocaust, and it's kind of like these civilized people going into a different civilization. It's kind of two worlds clashing, and it shows you the differences in humanity and how civilized people might not necessarily be good guys, and these primal individuals might have better morals than us. So I thought Cannibal Holocaust, it really showed that message. I thought it was very interested in its social commentary, and although the movie does get sidetracked in its shocking depictions of violence, I actually thought that was a very realistic portrayal. It actually felt like you were watching a video clip from people making a documentary, and it showed you just how horrible we can be as people, and it shows you the ignorance, and just because someone might be a cannibal doesn't necessarily mean that we're better than them. So although Cannibal Holocaust was a little bit too provocative, I still thought it had a driving force behind it of interest because of that social commentary. Unfortunately, The Green Inferno, that is where The Green Inferno really drops the ball. And basically in that driving force, there's nothing that is behind this movie that makes you want to see it from the start to the finish. Now to start off with, I thought the cinematography is very good. It captured the sheer sort of vastness of the Amazon jungle, how beautiful the Amazon jungle was, and it shows you how much of a threat the Amazon jungle is under, basically by these corporations, and new living styles and the new civilization, and how it's engulfing the older civilization. So I like that aspect of it, and it actually showed that greedy people are willing to destroy ancient things for their own gain. And it does show you also about protesters, and basically some people who will protest something not because they truly believe it, but because they want to look good in the public eye. They want to make it look like they care about it so they can get self-gratification from it. And that's what Eli Roth said he wanted this film to do, was to show you these people and how they might not possess all the knowledge on what they're actually protesting against, but they're just doing it to look good and feel good about themselves. But unfortunately the movie, as I said, it just doesn't have that social commentary. It felt like that element of the movie was not realised because it distracts itself with this over-the-top gore. Now I will say the gore is very well done. It's going to shock a lot of people, but with Cannibal Holocaust, as I said, there was that underlying social commentary that made you want to look and made you want to continue the film. But after you get desensitised to the violence in The Green Inferno, there's nothing to really interest you. So you start becoming a little bit bored, and you start feeling like this is deja vu. It just feels like one person's being brutalised in a horrible way, then the next person, then the next person. And because the story doesn't have a lot of depth, you just feel to yourself, okay, I've seen this before, it's just repeating it, and then at the end you think, I didn't really get a satisfied feeling from this, and it didn't really feel like it was worth the wait. Now I will say, production-wise, Eli Roth actually set this movie in an authentic Amazon tribe who had never seen a movie before. This is the furthest into the Amazon that any other film has ever been. So these natives were authentic. They didn't know what a movie was, and I thought their authentic way that they had about the camera gave it a strong sense of dread right at the start. And I thought that was the most interesting part of the movie, is that the setting was absolutely fantastic. But because the setting is so fantastic, you can't help but feel that it was a missed opportunity, because Eli Roth doesn't take advantage of this setting because, as I said, once you become desensitized to everything that is you're actually seeing, you start to get used to it, and it starts to get repetitive, and it starts to get very dull. And so you think to yourself, okay, yes, it was a very unique setting, but it doesn't really grab you, and it doesn't really add anything new. The acting was really bad. I will say that Lorenza Izzo she actually does a very good job. She was relatable to some extent, and she's not a bad actress, but the other actors were just absolutely abysmal. This is woeful acting, and it just takes you out of all the realms of realism, and when it takes you out of the realism, it takes you out of the relatability to the characters, because they're so far over the top, because they feel like they're actually reading off a script. You don't care about them. You don't care if they get eaten, whereas in Cannibal Holocaust, it was very authentic in the way it looked. It looked realistic, and it actually felt like these cannibals were, doing horrible things. You could actually feel the pain. But in this movie, because it's so over the top, because it's so exaggerated and overacted, you don't get that fear. So all you're doing is just waiting for the cool effects as opposed to being genuinely scared. So a lot of people say this is a genuine horror experience. I don't think it is, because it doesn't pay attention to the minor details that makes a horror film so good. I thought the start of the movie and the introduction into the Amazon jungle was fairly decent, but as I said before, you get desensitized to the situation, and then it becomes repetitive, and then it just feels like a movie that you want to end, and you're looking at your watch, you're waiting for it to finish, and that was very unfortunate, because I'd anticipated this film for a very long time. The acting, as I said, was really bad, and it's by far the worst part of the film, and it just drags everything else down. There was comedy in the film, which I actually surprisingly enjoyed. There were moments that were a little bit silly, but once again, for a movie that wants to be this really provocative, really brutal and horrifying movie, that sense of comedic value, it lessens that brutality, it lessens that fear, because you're kind of allowing yourself to laugh, you're allowing yourself to feel a little bit lighthearted in a dire situation. And if this wants to be an extreme horror film, and it's a horror film that's going to shock people, that comedy just felt way out of place, and it felt like Eli Roth was allowing the viewer to catch their breath, and he was relieving the pressure on the pressure valves. So I didn't like that at all as well. As I said, very good setting. The tribe, the cannibals in the film were very authentic. But apart from that, the Green Inferno doesn't really have anything going for it. If you want to see a cannibal film, watch the Cannibal Holocaust movie, because this one just feels like it was a lazy attempt at shocking an audience, as opposed to really building something up that is worth the time and effort to discuss at the end. So overall, for the Green Inferno, I'm going to give it 1 star. I was bitterly disappointed, not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.